Hey guys, Leilani Joy here, and welcome back to the Paint Along. This is part 2 of my Daisy Girl painting, continued from part 1. And we're going to just jump right back in, so get your art supplies back out. We're going back to the workshop. Okay, and here is where we left off, so let's get back to it. Alright, so I have a question. This is from YouTube. And on my previous, or 2 painting alongs ago, I don't know, a little while ago, Amber T asked us about how I felt about how villains are portrayed, and I was a little bit confused by her question, so she cleared it up for me. She said a lot of villains are portrayed in a gothic and or dark style, but does this create a stereotype that goths are evil? Yes, they are evil. If you were to create an evil character, what would they look like? Oh, that's a good question. That might be a fun future painting. I did do my Lady Death recently, so I guess that would kind of be an answer for you. That was what I would see as an evil character. I mean, I don't know. I don't really have a problem with evil characters being portrayed as gothic and dark, and because those things are just very symbolic and it's just sort of natural for people to make those associations, I think. So especially in animation and things like that, it has to be very clear. However, I always think it's interesting when you have a villain that doesn't fit into that, you know, maybe something like Mean Girls or something like Regina George type stereotype where they're all pretty and blonde and cute and they're really wicked and poisonous on the inside, you know, kind of like Heathers, which I prefer Heathers to Mean Girls. That's a little bit more in my realm, but I think that's always interesting when like something evil comes in a very sweet, pretty package, you know. I'm also a big fan of a film called Jawbreaker, which is also a similar thing. They're not portrayed as ugly or goth. They're like the pretty popular girls, and just how dark and evil their souls are, you know. So I love kind of playing with those ideas for certain. So it's not necessarily true, but I do think that sometimes just people are familiar with certain things, and it's just easier to get that message across. Okay, well, my next question comes from Sapphire Hings, who says, I have people at my school in art that tell me off and say that what I do isn't art because I trace some things or use a base off of Bing. I still have an idea in my head and it never looks like the original piece. That's just what I use as a base. Are they telling the truth? Is it not art when you take inspiration from a piece of art, but trace some bits? Because, for example, you like the way the body's shaped. That's a good question, Sapphire. Well, let me first of all get something out of the way, because I have seen this. There was someone on Instagram that said, you know, they were actually photoshopping photos together, and they were like, oh, well, they credited the source as from Google Images or from Bing. And so just to clarify, just because you find something on Google Images doesn't mean that there's no copyright on it. It's definitely still copyrighted. So first of all, just be aware of that being on the internet doesn't mean that it's free for you to use. But your question is dealing with a few different issues, and it's definitely a little bit of a, I would say, touchy subject for some artists. And I haven't seen your art, and I haven't seen, obviously, a comparison between your source and your finished material. But I have, if you want, I'll put a link right here to my blog where I talk a little bit about using reference. And while I don't think it's anyone's right to tell you off or tell you what you can and cannot do in your process, I would caution you about tracing, especially if the image is not yours. Certain artists, I mean, my husband, not to give away his process too much, but concept artists often have extremely fast deadlines. And sometimes they have to do something called a photo bash, which means they use a few references, kind of compile them together, and then they paint over it, just so they can get some textures and they can rough in something really quickly. And they often have to be photo real at the finish. So it sometimes helps to have a base, as you describe. However, if I usually describe it as in this way. If someone can recognize the image, so maybe I'll put up a couple of images to kind of illustrate what I mean. If somebody can recognize the reference, then you have not gone far enough. If that photographer or the person that owns that image, I would just say if somebody could recognize the reference in there, then you're playing a little bit too close to your source material. And I understand that it's often easier to trace to get what you want, but I also don't think that you learn from that very much. I would caution you to use tracing as a crutch, because you're not truly learning anatomy and you're not truly learning how to interpret what you see, because you're relying on a trace. So don't get too attached to that. Of course, it's not the worst thing in the world if you sometimes use that for an underdrawing to get you started. But what I would most recommend is to do a trace. So get a pad of tracing paper, do a trace, then trace your trace. And when you trace your trace, make conscious artistic decisions so that you're not just following exactly what you see, if that makes sense. I have done variations of this process, but I always use my own photo typically. So if I have a pose, I made up the pose, I made the photo, and then I trace over my photo to get in the proportions and, sometimes the hand pose, things like that. I definitely have done that. It speeds things up. But I don't usually do it with reference photos, because I think it's very dangerous if I don't own the rights to that photo, that I won't be able to disguise it enough. If it's my own reference, then I'm pretty much in the safe zone, because I own the rights to the photo and then the art and so forth. So, yeah, so I would, so hopefully that helps you. I know that that's kind of hard. I mean, I don't think it's ever fair for someone to decide that you're cheating, but just keep in mind some of those things that I said, and do try to do it without tracing too. That's the only way that you're really going to improve. And you did mention in your question tracing artwork, and I would definitely not advise tracing artwork. I have seen people do that. I've used this example image in the past, and this is not okay. This is copyright infringement. And I'm not going to name who this person was, but I have seen this before, and I'm like, oh, no, you clearly traced, and that's not cool. So keep it original as much as you can. Try to invent something new. So good luck. Okay, my next question comes from the lovely Monica S. Art, and she asks, I was just wondering, what is the difference between selling your work on Etsy versus Store Envy or your own private art shop on your website? I haven't been very successful in my Etsy shop, and I thought about changing it to my personal shop on my site. What are your thoughts about the subject? Great question, Monica. That's a good one. I haven't really talked about that yet. I don't, so let me preface this by saying I have not really used other formats, because I started my Etsy long time ago when I first was starting out, and I've kind of established myself there, so I haven't really experimented too much with it. This is definitely a subject that we need to go more in depth with, and I'm actually taking a workshop on this right now, because I want to be more knowledgeable for my own class when I talk about setting up your store and things like that. But to kind of get you started, I don't personally think that there will be, I don't think there's much of a difference, to be honest with you. However, I would consider, it depends. This is actually, from my point of view, a little bit more of an aesthetics thing. What you want your store to look like, how you would like to present your artwork. I think Etsy is a really nice format. I really enjoy the way it's set up. It's great for keeping track of orders, of customers, of messaging. It allows you to ship directly with Etsy using their shipping service, and I love that. It keeps everything right in one place. I have all my orders that need to be filled, that need to be shipped, right there. I haven't used Store Envy, like I said, or other site, but I'm not sure that it comes with that. You would have to use a separate shipping service like stamps.com or Indica or one of those other services. So I think that's a great perk. Etsy also now has something called Pattern, which you might look into. It's a really beautiful, professional looking store, and I believe you can use your own custom domain. So if you wanted to be monicasartstore.com, you could do that. However, I think it's $15 a month, and if you're not making, you know, at least enough for that to be worth your monthly fee, then that might not be what you're looking for either. So, but getting to the bulk of your question is, you know, she kind of wants to know, do you think I'll sell more art on another site? And I don't think so. Etsy is actually great because you often get people who aren't looking specifically for you. They might just be looking for girl with daisy in her mouth art, okay? So they might just stumble upon you because of your keywords. So I would recommend being, so just a couple of store hints for you is make sure you have really a nice clear photo of your artwork, a nice scan, and you might want to even show your artwork in some frames and have some kind of ideas of how it would look in a house. That's nice. There's some really great, highly recommend looking into some stock photography. They even sell it on Etsy as like stock frames and stuff where you can kind of do some mock-ups of your artwork and make it present really nice. And then the other thing that I would advise you to do is to make sure you've got really great keywords. Make sure that you have search terms in there that are directly related to your art. And you may even, something I've learned in my Etsy workshop, which I think is great and I want to experiment with and talk more about this in my class, is you might want to even experiment with creating two of the same listing with different keywords and seeing if you get more hits that way. If you find that some keywords work better for your artwork than other keywords. So that might be something to try as well. My final thoughts on this subject matter is just be patient. It certainly doesn't work to just throw your art up there, let it sit there, and just wait for the bucks to be coming rolling and wait for the bucks to be coming rolling. I swear I do know the English language, sort of. But as you guys know, I am in constant, all of my networking is linked together. So my YouTube is connected to my store, is connected to my Instagram, is connected to my class. So it's all an intergalactic, I'm losing my ability to speak. It's all interconnected, basically. So you've got to get people over there. So you can't just expect your store, Etsy, or anywhere else to do that for you. And like I've recommended for a lot of you guys starting out, is get out there in the real world. I know people are scary. Yeah, it is. I know. I don't like talking to people sometimes either. But I recommend going to some cons, going to some local shows, meeting people. You will be surprised how you can build up a clientele by coming in person, letting them see you, paint live. If you're a little bit shy, I usually kind of just get up in people's faces and I'm like, hey, how you doing today? Like I, go back to my retail job training. But some people are a little bit shy at shows, so bring something to work on. It's amazing how that can be a conversation starter. And people go, oh, can you tell me about your process? And seeing you and kind of knowing who you are, and connecting with people on a social level, you'll be amazed how you'll get them to come shop in your store. Start an email newsletter. I know that one seems a little bit archaic now, but honestly, since Facebook and some of these other sites are trying to force us to, pay and promote these posts, a lot of us are going back to more of just a nice little email newsletter when you have new work, when you have new prints. Check out something called MailChimp.com. They're really great for doing newsletters. And if you go to a live show, have a little sign up sheet and say, oh, please sign up for my updates and when I have something new. So you got to do some of that work. You really got to do it. And you've got to find your own niche and figure out where to find your customers. You have to go out and find them, because there's too much competition out there for you to just sit and wait and hope someone discovers you. I mean, that's certainly for sure. So anyway, stay tuned, Miss Monica. I feel you. Just be patient with yourself. Keep experimenting and see what works for you. I would love to have you in my business class when I get that up and rolling. I'm going to try to have it done by like fall, guys, or, you know, by the end of the year. Let's say that. By the end of this year, I'm going to have a business class for you, I swear, because I want to help more as much as I can and learn more for myself so I can help you guys, because I know it's an ever-changing beast, and it's great, but it's like the internet is amazing, but it also, it giveth and it taketh away, right? Because when I started, I was doing really good through Facebook. Facebook was a really great avenue for me, and I built up a lot of clients there really quickly, and now Facebook basically is like a desert. It, like, I get like my poor Facebook fans, like 3 of you will see my post and be like, oh yeah, I like it. I'm like, oh, because I have like 20,000 fans on there, and I'm like, 3 people see it? Like, that really sucks. Or unless I pay for my own fans to see my posts. So it kind of bums me out. I'm not too happy about that, but I'm looking into ways of working around it. So I'll keep you guys posted on that. My next question comes from Soulless Sid. First, thank you for these paint-alongs. Watching them has encouraged me to start painting again. Oh, thank you. That means so much to me. You have no idea. Like, I don't know. Nothing more rewarding than that, for real. I always look forward to your next episode. Thank you. My question for you is actually about a technique I want to try in my own painting. There are some shapes in my painting that I want to be super matte, and the rest to be a regular acrylic finish, which I'm guessing you mean glossy. Should I use a matte medium? And if so, how should I go about using it? Or should I just buy matte acrylic paint? I'd love to hear how you approach this concept. Happy painting. That sounds really cool. Actually, I haven't seen a whole lot of that in like playing with different finishes. So number one, A for creativity. Yeah, matte medium will do it for you. I would not worry about buying matte acrylic. Do they sell matte acrylic? Acrylic is weird because some acrylics tend to be a little bit glossy, some of them tend to be a little bit matte, and different brands will vary and things like that. So typically it's not a big deal because you're going to varnish it anyway and have an even finish. But I certainly think that you could achieve that by using matte medium. So I definitely think there's a couple of different things you could do to achieve this. And I'll move my little painting for a second so I can show you what I have. So there's matte medium, which you can use while you're painting. There is matte permanent varnish, which you could do at the end. And you could also, something I like is soft gel, because you can also use this as a medium, which is super high gloss. And then finally I have a Gamblin Gamvar picture varnish, which is super mega glossy. So I think the easiest way to achieve what you want is to do the painting exactly as you want it, finish it, and then once you're done, you can actually use something called Frisket, or you can use some artist masking tape, and I would mask off the areas you want to be matte and mask off the areas you want to be gloss, and then in stages use varnish or medium. It's fine to use either one. There is some discrepancy as to whether you even need to varnish acrylic paintings, because they're very durable anyway. So I've done a bit of research about this online. Some people don't varnish their acrylic paintings. They don't feel that they need to. I still like to, because I'm paranoid and I like to know that there's something protecting it. So you could choose medium or you could choose varnishes. Maybe I'll do this. So either way is acceptable. Yeah, so matte medium or matte varnish is going to give you a very, very matte look. The only thing I would be careful of is if you want it really smooth and you want to mix these with water, you do sometimes run the risk of getting clouding, which is like a white kind of look. So be careful if you want these to be smooth. Otherwise, if you want to just play it safe, use them right from the tube. I sometimes want something, I don't like a lot of brush strokes, so I usually mix a little water, but you have to be super careful with the matte ones because you'll get some cloudiness. The gloss gels are usually fine. I love this Gamvlar stuff because, as you can see, it's almost like the consistency of water, so it is super easy to get a nice flat even coat. Anyways, so give that a try. I would like to see how that comes out. I bet it'd be really cool, like almost like adding metallic paint or like gold leaf or something. So when you like shift your painting back and forth, you probably get this really cool difference of finishes, which I think is really interesting. So let me know how that turns out. Yeah, so any of those products will work. There's also lots of other products you can use, other brands. Go to the art store. Anything gloss or matte should do the trick. The only thing I would recommend though is do a practice. Do some swatches like on like you know, just a scrap piece of canvas or whatever it is you're using, just to see if you like the finished result. Okay, so now I'm switching back over to my Instagram questions. So these questions are coming from Instagram, so if you ask me something on there, hopefully I will get to you. So my first question is from Tamara Faye Art. How did you first approach and get into galleries? Or did you focus on your online following until they approached you? So I have answered this one. I'll send you to my more elaborate answer, but the quick answer is the second part of your question. I focused on my following and they approached me. So I have actually, you know what? I don't think I have ever, well, this sounds like a humble brag, but I don't think I've ever approached a gallery, really. I mean, I've probably done some online submissions that I never heard back from, but pretty much all the shows I've been in were kind of a fluke invitation. My very first show that I ever did, I was still in college, and some girl saw my, some lovely lady who owned a gallery, a local gallery, saw my work, I guess on MySpace. And she invited me to do a solo show, and I worked like a maniac for like a month to get ready for it. And yeah, so I just have been focusing on making my work as much as I can, and doing my videos, doing my store, and going out. Like I said, I've mentioned that again earlier, is I have been invited to some shows by being out in person at some, like, you never know, some little craft fair or something. Someone will be like, oh, my sister owns a gallery. You know, can I get your information? All right, my next question comes from Grandma Soul. Hey, Leilani, I'm visiting San Francisco in the summer. Why? It's freezing. No, seriously. Summer, bring a jacket and a beanie and a scarf. I always feel bad for people who want to take like their summer vacation in San Francisco, because it's like the nastiest weather of the entire year. It's just mega foggy. So yeah, well, bundle up, you'll be fine. But as a tip, come to San Francisco in like November, and it's like, you know, 75 and sunny. It's beautiful. Anyways, your question is, I'm coming to San Francisco with my family, and I was wondering if you could give us some tips on what to do and see. Any good restaurants? Love your art, by the way. Longtime fan. Thank you. Oh God, how do I slam this in a nutshell? I love Japantown. I've always been into Japantown since I was a kid. I always insisted, if my family, if we ever came down to the city, because I'm actually from up north a little bit farther, I would have to go to Japantown. One of my favorite places in Japantown is the Kinokuniya bookstore. I could spend a day in that bookstore. It is awesome. Especially if you're into manga and stuff like I am. They have a huge selection. It's amazing. I'm highly recommend you check that out. Also, if you're into ramen, I would highly recommend Ramen Yamadaya, which is in Japantown. I think it's the best ramen I've had outside of Japan. So if you're into that, that's one of my favorite places to eat. If you're into shows, if you have time to catch a show, I love San Francisco shows. Beach Blanket Babylon is hysterical. It is a San Francisco icon. They change it all the time. The show is always different. So if you can get some last minute tickets to see Beach Blanket Babylon, highly recommend that. If you would like dinner and a show, one of my favorite places is Asia SF, which is a drag show and dinner, and then they have dancing afterwards. Worth the ticket price. It's super fun. All the ladies are gorgeous. My father, we took him for Father's Day. He was very confused. He's like, wait, those are men? I'm like, yeah, but you can't really tell because they're so beautiful. So if you want to get to the drag scene, there's a newish place called SF Oasis, and I have not been yet, but I really want to go. It's also a drag and dinner show, I think. Some other favorite restaurants. Oh God, there's so many good places to eat. It's really kind of hard to go wrong with food. I love this little place called Sheba Piano Lounge. It is Ethiopian food, and it is so good. It is one of my favorite meals I've ever met. I told the owner, like the owner is always there. I like grabbed her hand and I was like, this is the best meal I've ever had. So recommend that. It's a jazz club plus food. That's great. If you're into more touristy, outdoorsy stuff, like I said, the weather might not be that great depending on when you're there. Definitely see the bridge. The Sutro Baths, that's an interesting kind of place to hang out. Or if you want nicer weather, I would recommend making your way across the Golden Gate to Marin. Check out Sausalito, check out Mount Tam, or if you have time, take a little short ferry ride over to Angel Island. It is gorgeous. It looks like a rainforest over there right now. So if you're into hiking and stuff, and if the weather is really yucky, typically if you go like 5 miles outside of the city, it's beautiful. So there's a few tips and tricks for you. Maybe I'll see you. I don't know. But have a great time. If I have a show, I don't think I will have a show. I have a show in LA coming in June, but I don't know if I'll have anything in San Francisco. If you're going to be here during the Haight-Ashbury street fair, which I think is in June, I might do that this year. I'm not sure though, because if it overlaps with my other show, I can't do it. But that's a really fun thing to check out. Go to Haight-Ashbury. That's really fun place. If you like vintage clothes, weird things, get in the spirit of San Francisco, definitely recommend that. I don't know. I've given you like a week's worth of stuff to do, and you're probably going to be there just a few days. So have fun. Enjoy your trip. Okay, my next question comes from the lovely Creatures from Starlight. How are you, girl? She's got a good one for us today, I think. So she says, I don't know if you've heard of the Labyrinth of Jareth Masquerade. Actually, I think you told me about this like when I saw you in person, because you were telling me about masquerade balls. I've met her a few times. Hi. Anyway, so she says it's a masquerade based on the movie Labyrinth, and the attire that ranges from formal wear with a mask to elaborate costumes of fairies and creatures. Oh my God, I would love to do that. My question would be, if you could attend such a masquerade, what kind of outfit would you create if ability and budget were not an issue? Oh my God. I feel like I'd have to like draw it. I love Labyrinth. It was a big influence of mine as a kid, and probably my first like crush, which I didn't know was a crush. Like I was like, I'm just so attracted to this Jareth person. I don't know why. I'm too young to be having these feelings. I don't know what it is. But God, it's David Bowie, okay? I think he makes a lot of people feel like that. Oh, rest in peace. I don't know. I feel like I definitely have to do a play on Sarah's ball gown with maybe a headdress. I don't know. Something white, whimsical, sparkly. I don't know. This is kind of what I'm just envisioning. Sheer glitter. I don't know. That's where my mind is going. Probably definitely a mask, because I like the idea of the masquerade. I don't know. I'll have to get back to you on that. I might have to do some kind of Labyrinth masquerade. That would be actually a really great theme for a painting. Yeah, I think you told me that it moves around, so I'll have to look if it's ever coming to the Bay Area, because I would be so into that. I mean, that would be like the perfect situation for my Biodrag Faux Queen to come out, I think. That sounds awesome. Okay, next up, I have a question from our dear Chibi Monster 1991. Hey, Leilani, I hope all is well. It's good. It's pretty good. Living the dream, making art. Are you ready for the summer heat? Hell no. And I have no summer heat. I live in San Francisco. I just said that. It's freezing. Anyways, maybe it's just me, but it's giving me mental block. My question is, can we mail you anything? I'd love to send you some love in the mail. Let me know if I can so I can fan over you a little. It'll help boost my creativity, so it's a win-win. Oh, that's so sweet. I have discussed this before. I don't really accept fan mail per se, because I keep my sort of location mysterious, just because people online are creepy. I've had some problems with some people online, so I don't have a mailing address. But of course you can scan it and email it to me, or you can tag me on Instagram. I would love to find it that way. But yeah, I don't have like a studio address. I was actually talking to, online, I was talking to Amy Brown, who's a fairy artist. I'm sure you've heard of her. She's amazing. One of my early influences, actually. I loved her fairy artwork. But she said that she has her actual address listed, and she said she's had people show up in her driveway. And I know they're like looking for her store or something, but she's like, it's kind of weird because they'll be like, oh, I'm at your house. And I'm like, no, I don't want people at my house. I'm sorry. I'm a hermit. I want to just be in my room and broadcast through my computer. So at this time, I don't have a place to send fan work. All right, next up is a question from Pascal Figura. Oh my God. Dude, Pascal is like one of my first fans ever on YouTube, so it's really awesome to hear from you. I hope you're well. Like, it's really cool to hear from you. So he says, fan since your first video. Oh, yeah, I know. That's so crazy. You're a big inspiration for me. Keep rocking. Well, my question is, do you ever get frustrated while working on some art that you just screwed up and need a creativity break? Oh, yeah, constantly. I mean, I've talked about this before, but hey man, it's part of the job description. There's some days where you're just gonna be like, I hate myself. I suck. I should really rethink my entire career path and do something else. I go through this probably like once a week. No. But at least once a month, for real. And my husband usually has to talk me down off the ledge, and he's like, will you please just stop? You're just having a bad day. It doesn't mean like all hope is lost. But it's hard. It definitely is hard. And I definitely think that we all need to practice self-forgiveness and realize that sometimes we're just not going to be creative. And the number one thing is like, stop comparing yourself to others. And that basically is a note to self, because I have that problem. And I also, at this point, I'm 32, and I sometimes get hung up on like where other people are at my age. I'm like, oh my God, that person has a line of books. They have their own line of art supplies. They have a comic. They have this and that. And I'm like, oh my God, I just don't know. But, you know, I don't know their path. They might have started earlier than I have. It really depends. And I say this in my art class that I teach all the time is, don't compare your chapter 2 to someone else's chapter 12, because it's just, you can't, everybody's circumstances are different. So just be kind to yourself. Just keep working at it. If you're dedicated, you'll go far. That's all you really need. And I have to practice this myself and tell myself this a lot. I should probably write this down and put it next to me so I remember, because I'm giving advice. But it is it's a challenge. And sometimes you do need to step back and be like, I'm going to express myself creatively in some other way. And I've talked about this lots of times before. I used to be very involved in dance and ballet, and sometimes I'm like, I'm just going to go take a dance class, just drop into a dance class. And I find it amazing how expressing myself creatively in a different type of way can sometimes re-inspire me, you know, artistically too. So I hope that helps. Just know you're not alone. We're all in this together, and we all feel that on a frequent basis. Okay, Mr. Eric Mendoza asks, this is a hard one. Okay, give it to me. Which Sex and the City character do you most identify with? Do you love this show? Yes, I love the show. I've seen it many times. I like to say that I'm somewhere between, well, I mean, certainly feel like I have aspects of all of them in some way, but I would probably say that I mostly Carrie with a little Charlotte. I feel like sometimes, I don't know, I definitely kind of relate to both of those, and a lot of times I feel like I'm Miranda as well. I also feel like I'm like, God, people just freaking annoy me, and I just can't be dealing with it. But probably I relate mostly to Carrie just because, you know, she's a freelancer, she's obsessed with fashion and shoes, and I've always kind of felt like mostly like her. I've had some similar relationships, and I mean, I hope that I'm not as neurotic as her, because I do think that sometimes Carrie is like kind of annoying, and you're just like, get yourself together, lady, you're just crazy. But yeah, I love that show. It's one of my favorites. And my husband constantly makes fun of that show, and he's never seen it. So it's very annoying to me. He's like, oh, it's a show where women talk about purses. And I'm like, it really is not. It is about relationships. It's about, it's funny. It takes a really great, it's good writing. So it's one of my favorites. I even like I like the movie too. I like the first movie, but I kind of pretend the other ones didn't happen. But okay, my next question comes from Zazame Murgen. Hopefully I said that kind of right. It's pretty. Zazame? That's pretty. Hey, love your artwork. My question is, how often do you find yourself in a rut with improving your art skills? Do you buckle down and practice things repeatedly, or walk away for a while and take a break? I mean, this is kind of like what we just talked about earlier. I was like, yeah, I mean, you have to find a balance. Of course, I find myself in a rut. I find myself sometimes like, oh, I'm repeating myself. I want to get better. But I do try to, as much as I can, not burn out, because it's hard. Sometimes you're like, I've got to do this so I can eat. But you're not really feeling it. So it's a balance, and you got to find that balance for yourself personally. And I strongly recommend doing self-care, exercising, finding other creative outlets, and occasionally doing something outside of your comfort zone. I recently, like I said in my last video, I did this assignment for the life book, which I'm teaching a lesson. And in that lesson, we are exploring artist styles that are different from us but inspire us. So I had to kind of switch my brain and think like a different artist. And I was like, wow, I really learned a lot from that. And I learned different techniques and things that I would like to apply to my own work, and, you know, just help it continue to develop and change. So yeah, I think something like that could really be helpful. If you want to participate in my lesson, it's not too late to join the life book. You can find more info about it at leilanijoy.com/lifebook. That's my affiliate link. So if you sign up, please do sign up directly through that link. It's really a great program to kind of help you get re-inspired. It's a year's worth of creative prompts and visual journal ideas and in-depth lessons. So if you guys like the paint along, you would definitely like the life book. And if you're feeling in a rut, I don't know, I think it's a really great tool for that, because it's very free form and focuses on self-healing and enjoying the art process without worrying about somebody else seeing it. It's just for you. So I really think that would be a great thing. I want to do it myself, for real. So like, I watched some of the videos, I'm like, so cool, like I want to do that. Okay, next I have a question from Joan of Arc 001. Whew, I gotta take a breath, talking too fast. I know you and your husband love each other. I hope so. But have there been times when he got to see you full of joy on something you love? And if you two were an animal couple, which one would you be and why? Has he gotten to see you full of joy on something you love? Oh, constantly. He sees me geek out like on a regular basis. Like I said, we were at, watching, oh, he just got home. How ironic. We were just watching, Beauty and the Beast at the movie theater, and I was like, so full of joy and crying from nostalgia. And he was like, "Oh, you're so cute. You love this so much." And I think he got teary-eyed too. So, hey.
You talking about me?
No. So, do you want to chime in on this? So our dear friend Joan of Arc 0001 would like to know, if we were a cute animal couple, what would we be and why? Oh my god, no, don't creep on my video unless...
That's my eye.
Okay, well, what cute animal couple would you like to be?
What cute animal couple?
Maybe we'd be like Zootopia.
Oh.
Or we could be a fox couple. What kind of animal would we be?
Man, that's a hard question.
I know. Well, I don't know. Foxes would be cute. Well, maybe we'd be two different animals. We'd be an interspecies relationship.
Interspecies?
Yeah.
You want just the Mass Effect fantasy, don't you?
Get out of my room if you don't want to.
I'll say Zootopia.
Okay, we're gonna be the Zootopia couple.
I think of something
Except
else.
he's the bunny.
Wait, are you talking about Beauty and the Beast?
No.
Yeah, you were.
Why?
You said I got teary-eyed.
Yeah.
It's not true. No, it is.
Okay, we apologize for that brief interruption. All right, next I've got a couple more time for a couple more questions before I have to go find some chow. Okay, so my next question comes from Ava Nicole Art. What are some of the hardest things about being a professional full-time artist? I did answer this in my part 1 of this paint along, so you can go find that over there. One of the hardest things is having your husband interrupt your videos and acting a fool. Okay, he's probably making noise out there. Okay, Amaris the artist, what's your favorite dinosaur and why? My favorite dinosaur is the water one, which I did have to look up the name of it, but it's called Plesiosaur. And the reason why it's my favorite dinosaur is because it reminds me of what I would assume the Loch Ness monster looks like. And also because of the Pokemon character Lapras, which is one of my favorite Pokemon. So that would also be my favorite dinosaur. Amaris the artist also asked, do you like Starbucks? Not really. I'm not a coffee drinker, so I don't really into coffee. But I've seen lately these like unicorn frappuccino and the rainbow drink. I'm really sad I missed out on that because that looked like, I don't care what it tastes like. It was so beautiful and I just wanted to take a picture of it even if I didn't drink it. So those look like fun. I still might have to go get one if they still have those. Okay, I feel like I've stopped painting somewhere along the way. I started to get distracted. Okay, next I have one from Yasmin Lal. Hi, Leilani. Random question, but do you or have you ever played The Sims? The Sims took up like a good part of my high school life, I think. I lived vicariously through it, and I made all the boys I liked at school, and I made them my love slaves. Wait. No, I didn't do that. No, I did not. But no, I loved The Sims. Oh gosh, I mostly played, I think, The Sims 2. That was the one I probably spent the most time with. And a more serious question. Do you think post-secondary school is mandatory for someone who wants to continue working in the arts after graduating high school? High school is ending for me and I really love to hear your advice. That's a great question. I do think I've answered variations on that before. I do think it depends. I don't think there's a black and white answer for everyone on that. However, I kind of, and this is what I say in my Art School Express class, which if you're on the fence about art school, I would highly recommend, I have to promote my own class, but I do think it might be a great thing for you just to see if you like it, because I have taken a lot of stuff from art school, and just, you can kind of get your feet wet, if you will. Try my free trial if you haven't yet. But what I tell them in that class, basically, and people who are thinking about joining or going to art school, is look at what professional artists are producing, look at your body of work, and be honest with yourself. Can you compete with that? Is your work at the caliber that would be seen as professional as is with no further training? It's really depends, because I have seen some young artists who pretty much are ready to work professionally for whatever reason. Maybe they had special training, maybe they were taking classes. However, for the most part, I think it's pretty darn difficult to compete with people who have formal art training if you have really no knowledge of that. I don't know what your high school art program is like. Some of them are really, really good. So I would just kind of assess that. Look at the type of work you'd like to do, if you want to pursue illustration or if you want to pursue fine art, and, look at your work side by side. And, there's always room for improvement. Even after graduating from art school, I felt like I had a long way to go. But if you feel that you really need more technical skills, then you need to pursue further education. There's some you can do on your own by simply practicing over and over again, watching some online, taking some online classes. But I do think it is very valuable still to have a live instructor if you can, because it's harder to critique yourself. If you don't have somebody who's really telling you what to improve upon, that can be very challenging. So hopefully that gives you something to think about. I do think people who need no art training of any kind are a minority. And I have talked about this in my class as well, is that, and some people still become successful, so that's not necessarily, that's not necessarily a requirement for success, but I have found that I've noticed sometimes some artists, I can tell that they're self-taught. I can tell that they're missing certain, they don't approach design and composition in a very skilled way. Not to sound shady, because it's, art's certainly, it depends on people's taste, what they like and whatnot. But I will notice that a lot of people can train themselves to paint and render really well, just by practicing over and over again, but they don't know the fundamentals of good composition and good design. So while they're doing good paintings, they're sometimes a little assaulting on the eye and could be improved by better design choices. So that's just my 2 cents on it. I've talked before that I think I did need art school, that it helped me. I was not ready. High school, I even majored in art in junior college, and I still did not feel like I was ready. So I felt like I had a long way to go, and I had a long way to go even outside of art school. So I don't know, but that might be dependent on you, and you're going to have to just kind of be honest with yourself on that. Goggon Bullets is back, and this time they're saying, well, this might be an obvious answer, but have you watched RuPaul's Drag Race Season 9, Episode 1? Yeah, I've seen all of them. I watch them as soon as they're on, so I am up to date. What were your thoughts on Lady Gaga's guest appearance on the show? I thought it was about dang time. It was awesome to have her on there. I thought she was the perfect guest. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. One of the best episodes. I loved how she got some one-on-one time with them and Untucked also. I thought that was really, really cool. She's just awesome. You can tell she's a super fan of the show. I was dying when she entered the workroom and pretended to be a queen. I thought that was hysterical. I loved the Gaga runway inspired looks. There was a lot of really good ones. I don't know, loving this season so far. I'm starting to definitely develop some of my favorites. I'm newly a Shea Coulee fan, kind of. I always liked her, but I'm loving her more and more. I love her looks. I think she is hysterical. And her in the Kardashian episode where she was Black China. I don't even know who Black China is, because I do not watch the Kardashians. I never even seen an episode of it, but I thought she was hysterical, and she stole the show, and she is definitely one of my favorites. I've been praying to the drag gods that she would do a Grace Jones look, or do Grace Jones on Snatch Game, but I've already seen a leak of a picture, and she's not doing Grace Jones on Snatch Game, so I'm sad about that, but I think she really has that great look. So she's one of my favorites. Valentina is one of my favorites. I like a lot of them this season. They're actually really good. So it's been fun to watch. I can't wait for Friday. Okay, last question today, and then I've got to go. This is from Jolly Bean 45. First of all, your guinea pigs, we call them peegs in our house. We call ours peegs too. We go peeg, peeg. That's so weird. I know, that's hilarious. We call ours peegs too. I have one pig named Muffins on permanent loan. Anyways, I'm curious if you'll be participating in any local shows in the near future. I'm in San Jose and just wondered if you'd be doing anything outside of the Disney Gallery. Would love to come see your art in person someday. I'm very excited also about your Lifebook lesson. Yay! Oh, I'm so happy to have you on Lifebook. Nothing. I don't have anything local planned at the moment. I don't know. I've been kind of just floating around lately, but I have a show in LA again, which is also down there. I'll keep you posted. I always put stuff on my Instagram. I let you guys know in advance if I'm going to do something up here. I've just been so busy. I've been doing so many other things that I haven't had time to like seek out shows or do any show prep, but I would love to. Yeah, I'll just keep you posted. I'll keep you posted, and you keep me posted on your pigs and how your pigs are doing. Okay, guys. Well, I hope you guys have had fun on this paint along. She's getting there. She's getting very close now. And I will have this finished piece for you guys super soon. You'll be able to find it on the Bad Apple Artist Collective page right there up for auction. I have a really gorgeous frame for this piece, so she's gonna be in a finished frame that will be included as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you created something. If you did, you can post it on Instagram with the hashtag Leilani look, and I will do my best to see your paint along works. You can still sign up for the Lifebook, like I said earlier, at leilanijoy.com/lifebook and join me over there. I'm everywhere. I'm here, I'm there, and everywhere. And I have more art to do, and I have a show coming up that I keep teasing. And I'm going to tell you guys about that really soon. Probably on my next paint along, we'll be working on some show pieces. Okay, I'm out of breath and my mouth is dry from talking. So I will see you guys on another episode very soon. Thank you so much for watching and creating with me. It's always a joy to have you. Okay, see you next time. Bye.